It's now time for you to remain right where you are on the couch, but turn up the temperature a little bit as you take your place for the very first time on the hot cushion. So today I'm going to discuss your fantasy football footprint and follow that up with some questions, Kyle.
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay. So please keep in mind that during this hot cushion, I'm going to be very direct, to the point, and brutally honest, and the questions are not necessarily going to be easy. Is that okay?
No.
Okay, next segment. All right. Well, before we get into the meat of this potato, I'd like to ask you just a few things about you. Okay?
Fantastic.
Does that sound good to you?
I like it.
Jared's really big on consent. Like he's that really derailed him when you said no. He was like, "Oh, well, I'm not allowed to legally proceed." Then
It's my profession. I have to.
Right?
All right. So, for your first intro question, do you ever question whether your hockey helmet caused your hair loss?
There are times where I've considered that, but really in more realistic terms, I had health issues at a young age, and I think wearing a hat when you have hair loss due to bad health stuff coming from chemotherapy and all that.
Did you have cancer?
I did. 12 and 13. I had.
We have to start this over because I'm going to look like this giant asshole. What a time to drop that. Jesus.
Jared, I forget you guys have never met in real life. Like it
Never.
always slips my mind that like these interactions, like you're really still in the phase of getting to know each other, never having been in the same zip code.
You totally surprised me with the hot cushion segment that I wasn't aware of. So
Well, we're
I got
still
tricks up
gonna.
my sleeve too.
You kidding me? Okay. All right, whatever. We'll keep it in. We'll do it live. All right, Kyle.
Yes, that's me.
Intro question number 2. Whereabouts would you rather live in this world if you weren't such a Dallas Cowboys fanboy?
That's a really good question.
I know.
Of all the places that I've been, like I absolutely am enthralled with Belgium. Like that country makes great beer. The people are really cool as long as you don't go too far south. And it's just a neat country in general. So I would have to say like taking the lifestyle back a peg and living somewhere like Bruges, Belgium would be freaking awesome.
I can't argue with that. I've never been abroad, but I've seen in Bruges. So
yes. Well, and that movie was basically, it was a Hitman-y type deal, but they did a good job of showing you the cultural aspects of that city. And it is every bit as cool as it seemed like in that movie. It's just a neat city.
all right. Intro question number 3. So I'm a beer guy. Kyle, what is your favorite non-alcoholic beer?
Let's see. I would have to say tea. Like, because if you're going to make a non-alcoholic beer, you're basically not fermenting or you're removing the alcohol from a beer. And so all of those are awful. But if you make a wort, which is what you use to turn into a beer, it tastes like sweet tea. And before it ferments out, before the yeast does its thing, it tastes like sugar water, like a sweet tea, like a grainy type beverage like that. So I would have to say, yeah, tea would be my preferred answer.
Mine's O'Doul's. I don't think I've ever had it, actually, but my dad used to drink it. Shout out to Big John Schwob. Yeah, all I can say about that.
It's like the main one, right? They just
I don't know any other ones, so that's the one I had to go with. All right, Kyle. Time for your final intro question.
Okay.
What is your favorite part of Dynasty Fantasy Football Dudes?
Dynasty Fantasy Football Dues? I really like when there's leagues where people all just pay their dues, and it's no longer a thing that the commissioner has to mess with on an each and every day basis. It's like, hey, dues are up, and the people go, oh, here's our money. So those are my favorite leagues, where the leagues are just like, the money's no big deal. We're all in it. We're going to compete. Let's take the money off to the side. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. Mine's that they're almost always paying for the future picks that I've just traded to stock up and compete for the title.
The fact that you have to pay two every year that you play because you have to pay for
Yep.
your first round pick that you traded.
Every pick I have access to is gone, and my dues have been paid. All right, Kyle. Now it's time for the hard-hitting analysis and drama-laden questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question number 1.
You, Kyle, are a hockey player. My defending Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues were able to wear their Stanley Cup champion logo patch above their big chest throughout the shortened season. However, despite dominating before March, they are now out of the ongoing Stanley Cup playoffs, while your Dallas Stars continue on. The national anthem played at Dallas Stars home games involves a line where the crowd participates as they yell, "Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?" Star players in the NFL often work out with quarterbacks over the summer, which draws much social media attention, but is often much ado about nothing. Seattle received the NHL's 32nd team, the Seattle Kraken, this summer, while the mainstay team by the sea has a more hawk-like mentality. Russell Wilson has been perennially shackled by a run-focused game as he watches the prime of his dynasty career float away across the rippling waves as we collectively yell, "Wilson!" You drafted both Chris Carson and Rashad Penny in Safe Leagues 289 to ensure you have Penny's backup. Who was the first NFL player named on the Dynasty Self Help Podcast?
First NFL player named on the Dynasty Self Help Podcast. Man, that's a throwback. I'm going to have to say it was Tyler Boyd.
Unfortunately, that is incorrect. Antonio Brown was the first player named on our podcast.
I knew it was a receiver. I knew it wasn't a running back. I remembered us talking about receivers. Yes, Antonio Brown. I remember the conversation.
Yeah, we were very early on in our first episode talking about how this is not a news and notes show, and Antonio Brown's helmet was all over the news at that point. Mm-hmm. We said that we were not going to talk about that and maybe talk about things underneath that. And I had a hypothesis that, there may be some personality change from some of his concussions, and, I still stand by that. So,
I think we were kind of spot on with that one. The news of the helmet itself was not news, but the underlying issues around the helmet were pretty impactful.
Indeed. Okay.
All right.
No points there, but we continue forward. Question number 2.
You are a man of spreadsheets. I'm not sure why you need these spreadsheets since you have a self-proclaimed photographic memory. However, over-reliance on such a skill may end up spreading psychological bandwidth too thin. I get the sense that your spreadsheets whisper to you that you are the best drafter in history. Your Oklahoma Sooner roots likely leave you biased towards spread offenses when drafting, which may make you feel warm and fuzzy. Unfortunately, a few weeks into the season, you likely view your team as the rest of us do, sheet. While we don't often use a detailed show sheet, which we have found can limit the conversation and hide raw reactions, we don't go completely unstructured or we would get far too deep into your troubled psyche. In the best show ever, The Office, what type of cake was used during episode 4 entitled The Alliance to celebrate the first birthday on the show?
That was an ice cream cake.
That is correct. You did not fall for my sheet cake expectation that you may commonly see throughout the series. How did you know that?
I have a photographic memory.
Your spreadsheet told you, didn't it?
I could have gone with either of those and been right. Do I get a double point for callback to the question?
You get one.
That was epic.
You get 1 point. I was going to give you maybe 2 points, but I'm skeptical that you cheated somehow. So, like we did with Dynasty Theory, I'm adding and taking away points as I see fit.
Right. That's part of this game.
It is. Okay, Kyle. It's time for your third and final question.
I'm ready.
Now let's consider your behavior. Many times during our show, you derail our exquisite conversation with nonsense. This is especially true of your antics on the hot cushion segment we are engaging in as we speak. On some podcasts, this behavior would be considered unacceptable. However, I allow this as it displays behavior that can create problematic discussion, especially on Twitter. Gone is the day of a respectable discourse in the form of a well-crafted, thoughtful, and handwritten letter. as you have been swallowed by the Twitterverse, sliding in to tweet out ridiculous commentary. While you are a man of numbers, I'm more interested in determining your literary prowess. How many letters were in the first sentence of this question?
How many letters were in the first sentence of this question? I'm going to go with 37.
It is incorrect. We would have, well, I was going to say we would have accepted 26 or 27. The kicker, I was not going to let you get this question right. I was going to either go with the American or the British spelling of behavior.
That was difficult. I have to say the math on the fly of trying to figure out the average number of letters in a sentence because I couldn't remember the first sentence.
So you didn't even try and remember the first sentence.
No, I just tried to use statistical analysis to.
Do you remember now what the first sentence was?
It was a comment on my behavior on the show. I do
remember that. Now let's consider your behavior.
Yes.
Yep.
So I spent the entire question trying to eliminate my thoughts on behavior because I figured you were trying to derail me on that one, which is an amazing part of this, right? Like I've written so many of these questions now, literally probably hundreds. And, it's a lot of fun to try to play with the guest and try to move them in a direction that they think they're going to be comfortable with. And then knowing that sometimes they actually know these things. It's kind of like the bluff of a bluff. Like I'm bluffing in poker, but I really have the nuts. I'm just bluffing so that you think I'm bluffing so that you'll call me. Like it's a game within a game.
It is. And, these were really fun to do for you. The first one I threw in just a lot of twists and turns.
It was a long question.
It was really long. It was my first one that I wrote, and I was extremely pleased with it. I threw in the Blues big chest to try and give a Mr. Big Chest. And then I also did star players in the NFL often work out with quarterbacks, and it turns out to be nothing. So I gave a couple Antonio Brown clues in there, but then just threw in a bunch of random teams and tried to throw you off and had some fun with that.
You actually gave me some breadcrumbs that made sense in that one.
I did, yeah, which I figured you wouldn't pick up on fully, but and then the second one.
Point of order. You've got to thank him for his time.
Oh, I'll get there. We're just.
This is the wind-up. Okay.
Yeah.
We're still in question 3.
Let the man work his process. Yeah.
That's right. Sheets. I was trying to draw you to sheet cake. You didn't fall for that one. We talked about behavior. So yeah, that was fun. I hope to never have to do that again because I recorded it like 70 times before I sent it to Rich. It was brutal. I thought it was going to be like.
Oh, now you're blowing the illusion. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You're giving up all of our trade secrets
here. I'm all about honesty on this podcast.
And consent.
That's right. Kyle, thank you for your time. I appreciate your candid and truthful answers on my insightful, hard-hitting analysis.